he and I started talking online through social media. And then we started.
It started in the quiet, no announcement, no camera crew, no staged reunion. Just Meri on her porch in a gray sweater. And the snow falling silently behind her. Her voice was soft, but it cracked not from drama, but from decades of silence finally breaking. She said, "I gave everything to this family. And when it hurt, I kept quiet. It wasn't a monologue. It was a release." And when she whispered the words, "I'm not unstable. I'm free," everything changed. 'Cause this wasn't a storyline. This wasn't an episode. This was a woman finally stepping into her truth. Behind the scenes, the machine was already trembling. A leaked video, time-stamped 2:14 a.m., captured what fans now call the moment the mask slipped. A grainy hallway, fluorescent lights, and two voices too familiar to mistake. "Robyn, she's cooking something up. Meri's spoken to people." Che hesitated. "If she goes public with the truth, you won't survive this." And then Cody, cold and unflinching. "She doesn't have the courage. She's threatened this for years. We'll bury her. Not protect, not defend. Bury." This wasn't reality television anymore. It was strategy. A plan to silence, to erase. And then, the note. Just 5 words, taped to an old lease from Meri's Las Vegas home. Written in Robyn's own hand, "Don't discuss this just yet." No explanation, no caption. Just truth, raw and silent, posted on Meri's Instagram story. That note wasn't paper. It was proof. That Meri's silence hadn't been submission. It was obedience. But the time for obedience was over. She didn't need to name names. She didn't raise her voice. Because the truth doesn't have to shout. And then came Belle, Robyn's own half-sister. She didn't scream. She didn't accuse. She simply said Robyn could always turn a room with one tear. And Cody, he was her ideal audience. That one TikTok exploded. 10 million views in a day. Not just from fans of the show, but from women. Women who had lived this. Women who had been told to smile, to be quiet, to stay. Suddenly, Meri wasn't just telling her story. She was telling ours. Then the meltdown. Cody's breakdown on set. A screaming match. Accusations. Security called in. Production halted. And TLC. They didn't cover it up. They couldn't, because this time the footage rolled. Clips once cut to protect Cody's image now aired. Gaslighting, control, dismissal, pain. And when the season 19 trailer dropped, Cody and Robyn were missing. No couch interviews. No solo shots. Nothing. Just Meri, Christine, Janelle. The women who had been kept in the shadows finally stepping into the light. Leaked emails confirmed it. An internal memo read, "We can no longer defend the Brown family's image at the cost of reality." The truth had broken through, and the audience had never been more ready for it. Meri's porch video reached 3 million views in days. Christine's memoir sold out in pre-orders. Janelle's.com, unwavering strength. It became a beacon. And Cody's last desperate move, a $230,000 lawsuit and a silencing NDA, rejected. The judge didn't buy it. The fans didn't tolerate it. And Meri, she didn't blink. She held up a draft NDA, signed not by attorneys, but by Robyn herself. "You don't get to control my story anymore," Meri said into the lens. And that was the moment everything changed. For over a decade, she'd been background, smiling, nodding, enduring. But now she was a voice. A voice for every woman who's been cut out of their own story. For every wife told to be grateful. For every woman asked to stay silent for peace, for image, for someone else's comfort. And when she said, "I'm not unstable, I'm free," she wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for all of us. Outro call to action. So if you ever felt it, that tension under the surface, that moment you thought something's off, you were right. You saw the cracks. You heard what wasn't said, and now it's being said. This isn't about drama. This is about truth. Real, raw, unedited truth. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Were you one of the ones who always knew? And don't forget to subscribe. Because this story is finally being told the way it was meant to be. It was chaos, but this time people weren't just disappointed. They were furious. Because this wasn't about a marriage falling apart anymore. This was about control, about a woman being strategically pushed to the edge, erased. Had been loyal longer than any other, was now a liability to the narrative. Cody and Robyn spent years crafting, and when that late-night video leaked, everything shattered. In 2 minutes, the house of cards collapsed. And in that breach, Meri finally had space to emerge. No production crew. No confessionals. No edits. Just Meri, wrapped in a gray sweater, sitting on a porch swing as snow fell behind her. It was quiet. And that silence after years of being silenced was thunderous. She spoke gently. I gave it all to this family. And when it hurt, I stayed quiet. When I was made to feel invisible, I smiled. Her voice cracked. What? For effect, but because it had been locked away for so long, this wasn't bitterness. This wasn't revenge. This was something stronger. Visibility, and then she looked directly into the lens. I'm not unstable. I'm free. The internet stopped. Time paused. And the comment sections flooded with thousands of women who had been silenced too. Then came the note. Just 5 words, scrawled in Robyn's handwriting. It's taped to an old lease from Meri's Las Vegas home. Don't discuss this just yet. No caption, no explanation. Just the note quietly posted to Meri's Instagram story. But it didn't need explanation. It was proof. Proof that Meri's silence hadn't been personal. It was orchestrated. Robyn's image began to fracture. The soft-spoken peacemaker, the misunderstood spiritual wife, suddenly looked more like a backstage strategist. One who cried on cue, who wrote notes, signed NDAs, and sent cease and desist letters to silence Meri. Even blocking a podcast that tried to give Meri a voice. This wasn't about privacy. It was about control. And then came Belle, Robyn's own half-sister. She sat down in front of a camera, no glitz, no drama, and said it plainly. Robyn could always turn a room with one tear. Guilt was her tool. Vulnerability was her weapon. Cody, he was the perfect audience. That TikTok 45 minutes, 10 million views in a single day. Comments weren't just from Sister Wives fans. They were from women everywhere. And then it happened. On set, the crew was rolling. A producer casually asked Cody about Meri's video, and something in him snapped. She has no gratitude, he snapped. She's going to burn all I gave her for. What? A story? A victim complex. His voice wasn't the one fans were used to. It was sharp, unfiltered, unhinged. Security was called, the room froze. And Cody, once the face of the franchise, was escorted off the set. No statement. No apology. Just an HR memo. It's quietly leaked online. Due to conflict with production staff, Cody Brown will be removed from filming for 18 days. It was only 18 days, but symbolically, it was everything. For the first time ever, Sister Wives went on without him. And something magical happened. Producers began digging into old footage, unseen clips. Moments once cut to protect Cody. Moments of gaslighting, tension, manipulation, and suddenly, fans began seeing what had always been there. Then the trailer dropped. Soft piano, slow-motion shots. Talk of healing. But something was missing. Cody, Robyn, gone. No couch interviews, no sound bites, no spotlight. Just Meri, Christine, Janelle, the women once treated like extras. Now, center stage. At first, fans thought it was a teaser, a one-off. But the official press kit confirmed it. Cody and Robyn weren't edited out. They were excluded. Not an accident, a decision. And behind the scenes, TLC was in panic mode. Emails leaked. One memo read, "Viewer sentiment is overwhelmingly in favor of the other wives. We must adjust accordingly." And another, more brutal. "We can no longer guard the Brown family's image at the cost of truth. This is no longer sustainable storytelling." This wasn't just a shakeup. This was a reckoning. The network realized they had spent years protecting a narrative that no longer worked, that fans had outgrown. They weren't interested in Cody's leadership anymore. They wanted the voices that had been silenced, erased. Meri's video passed 3 million views. Christine's memoir sold out in pre-orders. And Janelle's calm truth hit like thunder across generations. This wasn't a publicity stunt. This was the real story, finally being told. And when Cody tried one last time, a lawsuit for $230,000, demanding Meri's silence, she didn't even flinch. She held up a draft ND. "I signed not by attorneys, but by Robyn. You don't get to control my story anymore." And with that, the walls came down. This wasn't just Meri's moment. It was yours too, 'cause you saw the change. You felt the tension. You sensed the cracks. You watched Meri vanish from the frame. You heard what she wasn't allowed to say. And now she's saying it. So if you were one of the ones who always noticed, leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe, because this isn't just reality TV anymore. This is the reality behind it. And finally, it's being told truthfully. What if the most dangerous thing was never what was said on camera, but what was left unsaid? What if the real betrayal wasn't televised at all, but edited out, deleted in post, erased with a single keystroke so the truth wouldn't be inconvenient? For years, fans watched Meri fade into the background, polite, present, but strangely absent. They told us she was moody, detached, hard to connect with. But what if the truth is that we were watching a woman slowly erased, frame by frame, season by season? Because that's how silencing works. It doesn't always show up in shouts. Sometimes it's just the scenes that never make the cut. The eye rolls left in, the empathy left out. The story shaped not by what was shown, but by what was strategically excluded. And through it all, Meri stayed. Stayed for the family, stayed for the kids, stayed because she thought love meant sacrifice. But love doesn't mean disappearing, and now she knows that. Her porch video wasn't just a personal release. It was a cultural shift. It cracked open a space for honesty, for grief. For women who have spent years being told, "You're too sensitive, you're too much, you should be grateful." And when she said it, "I'm not unstable, I'm free," she wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for every woman who's ever stayed in a room that made her feel small. For every person who's ever swallowed their truth because someone else needed to stay comfortable. That's why it landed so hard. That's why fans cried. That's why the story shifted. 'Cause it wasn't just sister wives anymore. It became a mirror, and millions of people looked into it and saw their own reflections staring back. Okay, and maybe that's what Robyn and Cody feared the most. Not the Instagram stories, not the leaked audio, not the TikToks or the memos, but the truth, spoken plainly, without filter, without apology, without permission. Because when women stop asking for permission to speak, the world has to listen. And here's what we learned. You can edit a show. You can manage an image. You can even try to write someone out of the narrative entirely. But you can't erase truth forever. It lives. It lingers. It waits. And when the moment comes, it returns louder, clearer, and stronger than ever. Just like Meri did. So if you've ever been told your voice was too much, if you've ever been told to smile through the pain, to stay silent for someone else's comfort, this story isn't just entertainment. It's yours too. The story isn't over. The truth is still unfolding, and the silence they forced, that's been broken for good. Because once you find your voice, you don't go back. You speak, you heal, you rise. Meri didn't come crashing back with fireworks. She came back with a whisper. And yet somehow that whisper rang louder than all of Cody's yelling. Louder than the interviews. Louder than the camera crews who had ignored her pain for years. Because the loudest stories are often the ones we've never been allowed to hear. She sat on that porch, no makeup team, no glam squad, just a woman with a decade of weight in her voice. And she did something radical. She told the truth without trying to make anyone else comfortable. She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't smile through it. She didn't brand it. She just spoke. And in that moment, millions of women felt it, that catch in her throat. That wasn't just grief. It was the ache of having so much to say and never being given the room to say it. And we realized something chilling. Meri wasn't the villain of this show. She was the witness. She saw it all. She lived it all. She stayed long past when it hurt, because that's what she was taught loyalty meant. And what did she get in return? Sticky notes, silencing, contracts, gaslighting, and a man who told her flatly she'll never have the courage. But here's the twist. She did. She found it, not in front of a camera, not in the editing bay, but in the quiet. On a snowy porch, wrapped in a gray sweater, where no one could interrupt her anymore. Because silence is not weakness. It's a storm gathering strength. And when that silence finally breaks, it doesn't whisper. It shatters. That's why this moment matters. It's not just a shift in a reality show. It's a shift in culture. The editors may have cut around the truth for years, but the audience, we felt it. In every glance that lingered too long. In every hug that didn't quite land. In every tear Meri blinked away while everyone else moved on. We saw it, even when they tried to make sure we didn't. And now, the reckoning has arrived. No more forced smiles. No more just be grateful. No more women edited into the background. This is the new era, where pain isn't hidden, where survival isn't villainized, where